I just got back from a writer's retreat not too long ago, and one of the speakers was talking about how to do a whole bunch of different things in writing. I thought this advice was really, really good, and so I wanted to bring it to you. You can see a link to the speaker's website in the description below, but today we're going to talk about magic systems. If you've been hanging around here for any length of time, you know that I have a podcast that talks about world building, and we have a pretty specific world building methodology. This is a slightly different one, but one that's no less effective. And I thought there were some pieces of it that were really good and worth exploring. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Seth, and I'm a full-time fantasy author. I make videos like this because they're really fun. To make, I mean. I hope they're fun to watch. I don't know if they're fun to watch. I don't watch them. I make them. But if you're interested in writing or being an author, anything like that, then this is definitely the community for you. Today we have 6 questions. They're quick questions, so don't get stressed out. But 6 questions that we can ask about our magic system that can really help us understand it. And as an author, we should understand our magic system. If we don't understand it, there is no way the characters will understand it. And if the characters don't understand it, the readers will be lost as well. And we start with the absolute most important question: what is your magic? What is it? Is it necromancy? Is it fireballs? Is it music? Is it telepathy? Is it ritual spells? Is it the ability to speak true names? Is it the ability to transform? What is it? If we don't know what it is, it's almost impossible to write about it. But so often we actually just ignore this question. And we say, ooh, I've got magic. And then we add a little bit here, and we add a little bit there, and we add a little bit there. And then eventually we get what's called scope creep. And our magic system becomes giant and unwieldy, and none of the rules make sense. And while you can hand wave that and say, oh, don't worry, it's magic, it feels really awkward to a reader. It doesn't keep the cohesion of the story or the immersion that we want for our readers. Now, once we've decided what our magic is, we need to decide where it originates. Magic comes from somewhere, because nothing comes from nothing. Magic could theoretically be the origin of everything, in which case it's sort of like God. But when we talk about magic coming from somewhere, what we're talking about is how people wield it. It's one thing to say magic just exists. It's another thing to say that person can use magic to cast a fireball. Understanding where it originates for the characters is incredibly important. After you've decided those first 2 things, what it is and how it originates for the characters who wield it or encounter it, it's helpful to ask what its history is. That is to say, what do people think about it? What has been done with magic? What has not been done with magic? What will somebody do in the future that will make everybody go, wow, that's amazing? And most importantly, how do the characters themselves feel about it? If somebody's village was burned down by an evil sorcerer, they probably have some strong opinions about magic. So understanding the history of how magic has been used in your world, in your story, is very important. Next, it's important to ask about magic's weakness. Because if magic was an absolutely perfect system that could fulfill every wish for no cost and could not be stopped, then you wouldn't have a story. You just have a bunch of people wishing each other out of existence. Instead, magic is most interesting when it has weakness. There's something that it cannot do. In Aladdin, you can't make people fall in love. That is the weakness of the genie's magic. And it makes the story that much more interesting because all of a sudden, Aladdin can't just wish for Jasmine to fall in love with him. He has to actually put in the hard work. He has to seduce her off her balcony onto his magic carpet and take her flying through the air. The point is that story needs weakness. It needs things to not work all the time. And so if you're writing a story that has magic, understanding its weakness is important. And that brings us to cost and limits. Where can magic not go? And what does it cost to wield? Magic without cost is not very interesting, but magic with cost can be fascinating, especially if you can find creative ways to pay the cost. And then finally, I think it's important to understand if magic can be turned off or lost. This can be a simple yes or no decision, doesn't matter. Maybe it's a yes or no decision that you then reverse later because you think it's going to be interesting. But anytime something can be pulled away, stories become interesting. Samson's story, the really strong guy who pulls down the pillars, it's only interesting if his strength can be lost. If he is just perpetually strong, then there's no conflict because he can just beat up anybody who comes. A la One Punch Man. Not that One Punch Man is bad, it's just that's not the focus. But by allowing Samson to lose his strength, all of a sudden, you have a real fascinating story. You have two competing sides, one who's trying to pull the strength from the other so that they can get what they want, and the other who's trying not to lose their strength so that they can get what they want. It makes for really good conflict. And conflict is the core of story. So these are the 6 questions that you should really be asking when you are writing a magic system. What is your magic? Where does it originate? What is the history of the magic? What is its weakness? What are its costs or limits? And can it be lost? And if you can answer those 6 questions, you are going to be well on your way to a fantastic magic system.